thank you very much, everybody, for coming along to this show and tell on report problems. So this is the introduction of Fix My Street into Hackney Council. We'll just, as I have in the previous show and tells, go over the vision for the service, which is to create a simple method by which citizens can report a variety of issues online and get automatic updates, and also so folks can call in through the call centre and have the same mechanism used for raising those calls. And then those items are automatically sent out to service areas for those things to be fixed. So if it's graffiti or potholes or a lot of other things we're going to be recording through this method. But the important thing then is that when the service areas indicate that those issues have been resolved, that the people who raised them and people who've expressed an interest in those issues get a notification to say that they've been dealt with or they're in progress of doing so. The issue we've always had to date is multiple calls into the call centre saying, is it done yet? And then not knowing when things have been resolved. Part of what we're going to do is we're going to have tailored notifications that go out when people raise an issue, which are going to contain effectively the SLA. We would say, we would normally expect to give you an update on this issue within a certain number of days, so people know what kind of timescales to expect to get some feedback from. The overall goals of the project, a better user experience. We've got a bunch of e-forms on the website at the moment. We want to replace that with Fix My Street. Reduce the calls to the call centre for reasons I mentioned earlier, and to enable new types of online reporting. We're currently working with My Society, who provide Fix My Street, to look into extending the use of that service to be able to report noise nuisance to begin with, which is something we're working on right now, and then antisocial behaviour reporting later on. So this is the fifth show and tell for Report a Problem. The previous ones are all on our YouTube channel. If you want to look at a bit about the history of how the project was started and why we chose Fix My Street, that's covered in the first show and tell video is there. So today I'm going to talk briefly about some good things, some of the current issues, things that are coming up. I'm going to try and do a live demo. We'll see how that goes. And then there'll be time for questions at the end. So some of the good things. So we've started actively working with the service areas. I have a lot of half-hour meetings this week with different areas in the council who are going to be using Fix My Street and receiving issues into their shared inboxes, or getting things coming in through a system called Alloy, which is being picked up by Highways, and that's going to be fully integrated into Fix My Street as part of the MVP. I've had a few of these meetings so far. Generally, people have been enthusiastic. They think it's a really good product. They think it's a really good idea. There's a little bit of pushback just because folks are struggling a little bit to organise their teams given the pandemic situation. But it's really a question of just trying to work with them to understand the amount of impact to their team and changes of ways of working. And when you talk it through, people are pretty happy to progress. So that's been very positive. We've finished a thing, or My Society finished a thing this week called location-based routing. What that's to do with is if there are some instances where you might raise a particular kind of report on an issue, and it's dealt with in a different team in the council, depending on whether or not it's in a park, on one of our tenant resident estates, or elsewhere in the borough. That was something that Fix My Street didn't support until recently, but they've just finished updating the service to be able to do that now. So they fixed that literally yesterday. So we're just in the process of testing it. We finished going through a big stack of really excellent feedback from the contact centre about the list of categories we're going to be supporting and what information we need to collect on some of those that isn't just the location and what the problem is. Sometimes you need to add mandatory fields, which we can do in Fix My Street. The contact centre also found a couple of bugs, which we reported back to Fix My Street, so it's great to know we've got folks in there really using the system quite a bit in anticipation of the go live and giving us lots of great feedback. We've finished single sign-on, so that means that staff can now log in using Google Authentication. We now have all the information to complete the Alloy integration, so it's not done, but it should be done in the next week or two We had been waiting for some information to come back from the people who build Alloy, but we now have all the information in place. So it's basically a clear goal between now and the end. We're just waiting to get the actual work finished. As I was saying before the call, before we started recording, we have a new iteration of the noise nuisance prototype, which we've sent to the people who deal with noise in Hackney and some other councils to get their feedback as we start to progress that. Current issues, it's really feeling like we can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. When I look at my Trello board, the number of tickets that there are available is going down and down. So we definitely, as we start to come towards the soft launch, which is going to be hopefully 22nd of this month, which is when we start some folks in the contact center using the system. And then once that's been shown to be successful for a week or two, we're going to have a comms plan in place to start spreading more information out to residents to encourage them to start using it online. We're also going to be doing a communications piece about the deprecation and eventual removal of a tool called Love Clean Streets, which we're going to replace with Fix My Street. But even though the number of things left to do is going down, some of those bits that are left to do are still pretty large, chunky pieces of work. So there's a bunch of stuff to do with updating the council website, so the actual page is in place for the report problem service, the list of expectations of when issues will be resolved by, digging out all the existing e-forms, for example. And then there's a lot of stuff still to do around finalizing the categories and making sure that we're asking for the right information, that if we're recording sensitive information like addresses when we ask for information about things, that we don't put those onto the site, various other things. One other thing I'll just mention, since I was reminded by talking about addresses and other sensitive information, is that the contact center agreed to be the moderators of any requests that come in online. So a few times a day, they'll go and check the things that have come in just to make sure that people haven't either posted sensitive information, you know, my neighbor Bob is doing stuff, or they've used offensive language, or they're just using the tool as an opportunity to have a go at the council. So we have people who are going to be moderating things that are coming in through the system. So that's good. So what's coming up at the moment? We're going to be doing more work on the category mappings. Louise Wallard's been super helpful in helping us do that. We're keen to get a demo of the Fix My Street Alloy functionality. So you raise something in Fix My Street, you see it go all the way down to being raised as an issue, which is seen by the folks in highways in Alloy. You then fix it in Alloy, and it goes all the way back to raising a response to the original user via Fix My Street, including the folks in Alloy being able to take photographs showing that something's been fixed. So they've filled the pothole in, they've taken a photograph of the road, now it's fixed. Add that to Alloy, and that should go all the way out to the original person who raised it on Fix My Street. Also, any issues that are raised by the highways folks themselves should also turn up in Fix My Street. So we should have that kind of transparency. We won't be able to demo that quite soon. Talked about Love Clean Hackney. We also have a thing that I know that Matthew's particularly interested in, which is finding phone numbers that some of these service areas have been giving out, saying just call us directly, and channeling those through the contact center. But we'll see how that goes. We've got a start of a comms plan, but we need to finalize that to make sure we can reach out to people to tell them Fix My Street is something they can be using. And then we really need to think about how we're going to be doing continuous improvement, what kind of KPIs we're going to be measuring, how we're going to do that, and how the responsibility between application support and the product owner and various people is going to take the continuous improvement of the service forward after we go live towards the end of the month. And now, at least in theory, live demo. So I'm just going to check this, because what I'm doing is I'm tweaking one of the categories so that it sends emails to me. And the system's very clever and says, well, hang on, someone's changed this thing they weren't supposed to, and changes it back again if you don't tell it to after a little while. So I just need to make sure it's still doing it for me. So what I'm going to do is going to do a quick demo. Just gonna nip over here for a second just to see if I should have saved this out earlier. Just bear with me a moment. There we go. Right. So these are the issues that are around the contact center at the moment. You can see there's quite a lot of problems with statues because that's what I've been raising this morning. We're going to do another one of those. So I'm going to say, we're going to request a new issue. Let's stick it over here. I'm going to pick a category of where's it gone? Is it street furniture and amenities? Statues. Everyone likes a nice statue. And it says, well, hang on, there's already a statue problem in your local area. Is this the same one? So what you can do is add yourself to an issue that already exists. So that stops the amount of duplication in the system. And it also means that when the issue is fixed, multiple people get notified that that problem is now being resolved. But I'm going to say, no, this is an entirely new problem. I'm going to add a photo. And while it's doing that, I can explain what the problem is. Traffic cone on head. And then a little bit of information. Because I'm in the system as an admin, it says, do you want to raise it as the council or as myself? But I'm going to raise it as another user and use my home email address. And then submit that. So this is the screen that I will see to say your problem has been found. It's being sent off to the right people. The reason why I'm seeing all this stuff in blue on this side is, again, because I'm known to be working for the council. But in terms of what I would see as a user, hopefully in a second, here we go, I get a report, comes through on my email. The report has been logged, statue problem, traffic going on head, here's the location of where it is. If I click on that, it comes through and I can find that. I can add updates, I can add other pictures, etc., etc. I can ask, is it done yet? So that's what you see from the user side. And then from the service area side, what I get is a very similar thing that says a user report, a report problem has submitted the following report they believe requires your attention. So this is if I'm working in highways or any environmental operations or any of the parks, the places that are going to be using the service. This is the kind of email I'll get in my inbox. So I'll be able to click on there to show full report. And again, I can moderate it, so I can remove any abusive language, but choose to keep the report. If I click on navigate to this problem, it will fire up a tab for Google Maps that will navigate between where I am and where the problem is. So if I'm somebody in highways and I'm want to go to where it is, I can just click on it and it will navigate me straight to it. So that's really nice. It gives the opportunity to add a bunch of extra information, such as if you've got a priority or if you need to do traffic management to deal with a problem. Let's say you've got a tree falling in the road. You can put extra information and you have an update. If you've fixed or done somewhere towards fixing the problem, you can add some photos to demonstrate what you've been doing. I'm going to say that it is fixed. You can also say in progress. Obviously, that would get passed back to the user to say that people are going to be working on it. You can do internal referrals if it's been sent to the wrong team. You can say that we're not going to deal with it and then give a reason as to why. I'm going to say fixed all categories. And if we're lucky, we'll get an email as the user saying that it's been fixed. But this has been taking a little while, so I might check that in at the end. But in the meantime, if folks have any questions, now's a good time to jump in. Is there anybody that would like to ask anything at this point?
What's your target release date for it going live?
So the soft launch, which is when we're getting some of the folks in the contact center to start using it, is at the moment is the 22nd of June. And we still need a little bit of time, mostly to ensure that we've got all the categories set up properly. So our MVP is 80-something categories, which is quite a lot. Some of which require extra mandatory information, some of which can be anonymously reported, some of which we don't want to show in public. So each category has to be routed through to the right place, potentially has to be routed through to the right place, multiple different places, depending on what its location is in the borough, as I was talking about earlier. But they're all quite fiddly, so making sure that we get all that right is something that we want to be really sure about. That's why we're taking a little while to be sure about that setup. Once it's been live with Contact Center for a little bit, we'll have a comms plan, which I'm hoping to get finished drafted in the next week or so. And then we'll activate that and use that to share it much more widely with residents so they can start using the online version. So that's the plan. A lot of it depends on how much time we have to get into the risks that need to be done on the remainder of the project. But I'm reasonably confident at the moment. We'll wait and see. Anybody else?
So just to clarify, your MVP is you're covering off all the issues in your MVP, but you are.
Sorry, Philip. No, I'm sorry, Philip. I interrupted you. What were you saying?
So you're covering off quite a lot of issues in your MVP, so 80+ issues, but you're introducing it to a small group of users. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So this is already somewhat cut down. There are 100-odd issues in the original MVP. We've been taking out, to be honest, the ones that were most difficult not to implement, but most difficult for users to understand. So we had a bunch of stuff related to, for example, building control or planning or this kind of stuff. And it's difficult to get users to understand exactly what those issues are. And some things like, for example, breach of license, it's difficult for people to know whether or not the premises had a license in the first place, and therefore whether they breached it or not. So we've taken some of these things out of the MVP. We're starting with the customer contact center users because we really want those folks to give it a good trial in a live situation before we then start rolling it out to residents. But it's used by a lot of other councils successfully for quite a long time, and I have a high level of confidence that we won't come across any showstopper issues, and so we should be able to progress with the comms plan and roll it out to everybody early July, first week of July, theoretically.
Cool. Brilliant. Thank you.
Ooh, I've got a thing from Kate. Kate says, ask about the comms. Are the comms team started on the date in June? Not yet, but they will be. It's on my list of things to get around to this week. So thank you for that.
That's okay. I'm just thinking that they will be immensely helpful in both the internal comms to our own users and to staff generally, to residents about the new product, but also in helping us track down the content on the existing website and what we need to do about that.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. Who's the best people to speak to?
I would start with Jenny O'Reilly and work outwards.
Okay, excellent. Lovely. I'll try and do that this afternoon. Okay. All right. Well, if we're out of questions, I will close.
I have one question, please, David.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if the location-based routing will be on Go Live Day. Is that working fine? Yeah.
So the location-based routing, I got an update from My Society yesterday saying that the work was all complete. what we haven't done is actually test any of it yet. So what I will be doing is I'll be coming to yourself and saying, what's the best way that we can do that? Because I'm interested, obviously, in knowing where some areas are on the map that we can drop issues to make sure that we get to the right places.
Yeah, we can test just inside, just outside. It can be fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will definitely be in touch. Cool.
And I like the status dataset. That's fun. So, and that's not one we've provided. I was wondering how many of those external stuff do you have? I suppose that comes with OpenStreetMap. They have status. Are you using other nice categories like that?
So we're not entirely sure about statues. This has been, I deliberately picked the category because it's a bit weird, but we don't think that we have them as assets that are captured in Earthlight, but we are pretty sure that there are some in the borough somewhere. This conversation has come up a few times, so we're going to leave it as a category, and we're going to see if anybody raises any.
Yeah. Okay.
But well, it's good.
Yeah, no, that's the good thing of using OpenStreetMap. They have many assets that we even don't capture.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we're pretty much out of time. If anybody, sorry, Zoe's got a thing.
Very unhelpful. I wouldn't hold anyone up in it.
Cool. Okay, so I'll give this video a trim and I'll put it on our YouTube site and on G+. If anybody has any other questions, please give me a shout.